Hello there, everybody. Meteorologist Noah Bergen here. It is just after 3:30 on a Thursday afternoon in early February. Hope you're having a great day so far. We do have better weather that is coming in for the afternoon. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and our Fox Local streaming platform. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday so far. Very changeable day as expected. It started with clouds. It's going to end with sunshine, and it's going to end with cold. We actually do have quite a bit of cold that's coming in now. Normally, the level of cold that is coming would be leading our newscast, would be the leading of every newscast. Florida would be at the top of your social media and the local weather report. But considering what we just had, it's really not that big of a deal. We're talking about temperatures upper 30s in Orlando, which again, I mean, it sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. A temperature of 37 with a wind chill of 29. That's in many winters that is a big shot of cold, but. Compared to what we just had, no big deal. But it will be notably colder, though, later tonight, especially tomorrow morning. So let me know where you're watching from if you have questions, comments, or concerns. There's a live view outside for tonight. Things are looking good, but we do have the cold that is coming on in from the north. In fact, it really is an interesting temperature map. If you look today, parts of the Dakotas are actually warmer than Florida right now. In fact, if you look at Rapid City, South Dakota, it's almost 70, yet it feels like 51 in Orlando. So you can really pick out the jet stream pattern here based on where the temperatures are. And it's actually quite interesting. If you look, you can see how the jet stream is right now, where the warmth and the cold is. You've got why is this green? It's interesting. I almost drew a green jet stream there. Never seen that. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in here. Fox Local, YouTube, and Facebook. So here is a trough, then a ridge, and then a big trough, like that. So you've got warmth here, then you've got cold here. And we're going to get 1 day of cold for tomorrow. Temperatures 30s for most out the door in the morning. So the air for today, tonight is coming from Wisconsin right into Florida. Then this push of warmth that's currently in the plains, we will get that probably as we get into middle of next week. Might be a hot minute, but probably the middle of next week. But again, you can see the feels likes right now. Just 26 in Nashville, 18 in Chicago, even 32 in Atlanta. So not that far to our north is it really cold. So let me know if you have a question, a comment, or a concern. I just want to check in. Love to hear from you, everybody on here. Let me pull up some of the comments here. So I think some of these are left over from Ms. Blanchard and TJ's discussion from the other day, because I don't think a frozen pizza and I like your dress today is referring to me. So I think these are yesterday's comments. Chicken wings and pizza, yeah, chips, olives, hamburger, hot dogs. Okay, these are yesterday's comments. So those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube today, please let me know if you have a question, comment, or a concern. Love to hear from you about the weather, but cold is going to be the headline here as we head into the next day or so. All right, so highs today occurred earlier today. These temps were at about like 11 a.m. In fact, let me check, because I think last night Laurel and I and our weather intern Josie, we were looking at this. I think we had the temperature peak at like 10 a.m. And I think that ended up being right. Yeah, look at that. Look at that, the meeting of the minds we had. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the hourly observations from Orlando here. I'll pull them in the big monitor. I mean, you're not going to be able to see this here. It's too small. But, yeah, so the high today occurred at 9:45 this morning. It was 59. So the high today occurred at 10 a.m., and we've been falling since. So kind of an unusual day where the high temperature occurred earlier in the morning, and we've been falling since. And the temperatures are going to really take a tumble tonight. Already into the 40s in Volusia and Palm Coast, 50 in DeLand. It's in the mid-50s in Orlando. But again, the temperature's going to be going down pretty fast tonight. The rain is gone. Now, we do need rain. We are in pretty bad drought. Sadly, the rain from this morning was nothing major. Here's the rain from the past 24 hours. I'll turn off the town so we can track this a little bit better for you here. So notice where there's green. Over here in parts of Brevard County, this is like a half an inch to an inch, but that's really only a select few areas that had decent rain, and that's like Lake Poinsett, maybe the Rockledge area, Cocoa. You see here right in the center of Rockledge this morning, got about a half an inch of rain. Over the Banana River side, about 3/4. By 95, 3/4. So for most, it was very nominal rain this morning, which is not going to do a lot to get rid of the drought. Ocala was barely a quarter. Palm Coast was a quarter. Deltona, a quarter. Downtown Orlando, how much? Kissimmee. In fact, it was surprisingly pretty uniform. So most places was under a half an inch, and the rain deficit is like 3 to 7 inches below normal since last fall. So yes, it rained this morning. No, that does not end the drought, and it doesn't even really put a dent in the drought right now. So here is the current drought monitor, and I do want you to notice that big parts of Florida are now in extreme drought. This is the worst drought going into February that we've ever seen since 2012. And notice we've got two really big pockets, one up here and then one over here of this level 4 extreme drought. Generally, once you're in the extreme drought for like 1 to 2 months, that's when you can really start to get burn bans, water shortages, retaining ponds are low. If you get into exceptional drought, it's like headlines. It's really high brush fire threat, really high wildfire threat, things like that. So that's what we're going to be watching for over the next couple weeks and months, because it does look like that La Nina is going to stick around, and when we're in La Nina during winter, that means drier than normal. So even though it is still going to rain through the rest of winter, if the average rain from now through the end of winter is 3 inches and we only get an inch, the rain deficit from normal will just grow from where it is now. So that's the perspective I want you to gain from this, like a day like today, where you might think, oh, it rained. What are they talking about drought? The deficit will still grow after this today, because the average rain in February is like 1.75 inches. And at least we don't have any sign of any notable rain anytime soon after what we had this morning. So drought is worsening. This gets updated every Thursday, by the way. And in our area, the regions that are under the worst drought, the areas under the worst drought is from Marion County up towards Gainesville, Williston. Those are in extreme drought. See Umatilla to Fruitland Park is in extreme. Then all around Orlando is only in the first stages of drought, so not nearly as bad. And then you get out towards the Space Coast in Brevard, and we're back into severe drought. I should also tell you, too, a large part of the southeast and the Gulf Coast has extreme drought. If you look here, see all the red? There's extreme drought in large parts of South Texas, many parts of Florida, many parts of Arkansas into Oklahoma. And a large part of this is because there was no hurricanes last year. Nothing came out of the Gulf into Florida or up into the Mississippi Valley, and a lot of these rain deficits originated back during hurricane season of 2025. So that is definitely part of the reason why these rain deficits are what they are. So hello, everybody. Thank you for watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Fox Local. Keep the comments coming. Love to hear from you on this lovely Thursday. There goes the rain to the south, and things are clearing on out nicely. I'll show you the clouds. There goes the front, and look at all the sun here that is coming in from the north, and there's the back edge of the front right there. And all the clouds and the rain are pushing away from us heading into tonight. So if you have a comment, put it in the feed. Let me pull up some of the comments, make sure I don't miss them. Hello, everybody. How are you? Hello, Alice. Hello, William. Hi, Noah. How are you? Good. How are you? Are you going to watch the game Sunday night? I have to work. I'm actually working for Laurel. I'm going to try to, on my dinner break, at least catch part of the game from at home, as I'm not that far away. But, yeah, Laurel's a big Pats fan, so Laurel deserves the day off to be able to watch her team. Should be a great game Sunday. I don't think it has nearly as the hype as last year. In my opinion, of sports, being a huge sports fan. Definitely not the storylines of last year. But it still should be a great game. And it's so much more. And I was watching some finance talk about this morning when I was having breakfast. The Super Bowl is so much more than just football now. I mean, it's a hub for tech and investing. and brands and marketing and advertising. That has all become so much more than even like 5 years ago. Where the weekly, like tonight, I think is the NFL honors, and then you've got charity events and cancer fundraisers, and AI, how it works into football and youth football. I mean, there's so much more outside of just the game on Sunday. So it really is an exciting week if you're a sports fan. Hello, Alice. How are you? No, it is seltzer from the work vending machine. I do love me some cucumber seltzer. All right, so there is the satellite tonight, and there goes the rain down to the south. All right, so temperatures tonight are going to be back into the 30s for most places. Here's the lows tonight. Pick the town out closest to you. We're talking about 32 in Ocala, 32 in Villages, 32 in Gainesville, 34 in DeLand, 36 in Sanford, 37 in Kissimmee, 40 in Cocoa Beach, and 36 in Daytona. So definitely, it's going to be cold tonight. Now, places where it's obviously closer to freezing, pipes, pets, keep the pool pump running. We've been through this song and dance, but look, 32 is a lot different than 22 like it was on Sunday morning. So not quite as severe of a freeze threat, more of a light freeze, but definitely the Villages folks, Ocala, Gainesville, Palm Coast, Bushnell, cover the plants, all that sort of thing for tonight. Around the city, Seminole County, Orange County, Osceola, it's safely above freezing, and out towards the Space Coast, we're closer to 40 for an overnight low heading into Friday morning. And across the state, even into the 40s down in South Florida. And again, most winters, this would be considered a big cold front. But not this year, and at least certainly not after what we just went through. 42 down in West Palm, 43 in Miami, 41 tomorrow morning in Tampa, 35 in Jacksonville, 32 in Tallahassee. So it is definitely a far-reaching cold front. All right, so the cold is very short-lived. It's just Friday morning, and then we're back up close to average. The average morning low for this time of the year sits at about 50 in Central Florida. We'll be waking up to upper 40s Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday going into next week. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the longer range stuff. Let's kind of do a little gear shift here. It's art of the segue. Let's do a little gear shift into the Daytona forecast. Which is coming up in a little over a week. Speed Week starts less than a week from now. And Laurel Blanchard and myself and two others are actually driving the hot laps tomorrow at Daytona. I'm actually extremely excited for that. I grew up a huge race fan. I actually wanted to be a NASCAR driver before I became a weatherman when I was really young. So I'm very excited for that tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll have some photo or video to share with you on social, on TV after. But the thing for the 500 this year is gosh, I hope it don't rain. 3 of the last 5 years have been rain impacted. Last year, as somebody who went last year with my parents, and I have family coming down again, it was not fun. I mean, everybody's in the concourse. It was 84. It was windy before the race, and then rain came through, and the temperature crashed. And then everybody's in the concourse huddled for like 4 hours. Last year, I mean, the race got in, but it was definitely a pain. So last year was a 3-hour delay after that big front came through. 2024, it rained so much. Remember, it was a washout. It ended up being a Monday race. And when it rained on Monday, it was very cool. I mean, I remember John Brown was out there field anchoring with Luann Sorrell and I were here in studio, and John was anchoring post-race. Because we already covered the weather before. John was out there after, and I remember John, that 2024 year, he was freezing. I mean, after the sunset, I mean, that high was like 1 in the afternoon. It was like in the 40s by the time the race ended, 2024. It was a very cold. I remember that live shot that John Brown did very vividly. So last year, rain, 3.5 hour delay. The year before, it was a Monday race, ended up being quite chilly. The year before, 2023, was really only the nice day in the most recent few years. It was near 80, sunny and fine. 2022 had a cool morning, but it was fine. And then 2021, nearly a 6-hour delay because of severe weather and thunderstorms that were in the area. So definitely we're going to hope for better weather this year. Now, in terms of all-time stats, it has rained on the 500 about 24% of all race days. So a quarter of the time, so 16 out of 67 Daytona 500s, it has been rain impacted. There are years where it rained in the morning and didn't impact the race. They jet dried it, the sun came out, it got windy, whatever. I spent a decent chunk of my workday yesterday looking at all this, like 2 hours. So trust me, I went through all of it. This number is very correct. Went line by line online looking at every race day and the weather that happened. In terms of rain impact, it was 16 out of 67. There are other years, there's a handful where it rained in the morning and the race ended up fine. So I did not classify that as rain impact. I guess it would have impacted the day, some of the festivities. But in terms of the actual race, 24% of all races were impacted, either delayed, shortened, or postponed by rain. So a quarter of the time. And oddly enough, 3 of the last 5 have been. So even if you're not big into statistics, my point I'm going to try to make is that the odds would be in our favor that it would not rain this year. Especially if the long-term average is only a quarter, you would think that things would be dry this year, but we will see. So here is the early outlook. There's likely going to be a cold front that passes by that weekend. The timing is still in flux because we're talking about a forecast that's more than a week away, so we're not going to definitively lock something in as final answer just quite yet. There's plenty of time to watch for changes, but the early outlook, just from a 30,000-foot perspective, is that the end of next week's going to get really warm. Not record-setting, but we should be near 80 Wednesday, Thursday, maybe into Friday. And then next weekend, we're going to watch a cold front that comes by. The models, I think the pattern's actually quite favorable for a storm to our north. The models today kind of backed off on that, but we're not modelologists, we're meteorologists. I think too often, too many in our field, and too many of us, even me included, we get too caught up in sharing with all of you just Model A says this and Model B says that. And you're not watching us to just tell you the models. You want our opinion, right? So the opinion is that there should be a storm in the eastern U.S. that weekend. The pattern just looks like there should be. And if you look at the ensemble data within the pattern, more than not, the majority do have some kind of big storm to our north that pushes a cold front through Florida. Whether it's just showers or big thunderstorms that come by here, we'll see as we get closer. But yesterday, the overwhelming majority had it on Saturday or even Friday night. Now it's like Saturday night. So, but look, the timing will waffle back and forth, over the next few days, as we're still too far out to know specific. But I'm mildly optimistic that the front would not come through Sunday afternoon. Mildly optimistic. But we have time to watch. So what you should take away from this is that it's warm the end of next week as speed weeks start. There's a front looming that'll knock the temperatures down quite a bit. Not to historic levels, but maybe from near 80 to like the 60s for highs. And when the front comes by, that day that the front comes by, there could be some rain and or thunderstorms to some degree. Hopefully it's not on race day. It would appear the odds favor it not being on race day. But we will see. Here's one image I want to show you, and this is the AI European Ensemble. In English, it's the European model, just the AI version. And right here, if you look right here on the right side, this is Sunday the 15th. If you look right here, see where it says Sunday 15, that's Sunday, February 15th, and then in between right here, that's the afternoon. And these are all the models. And notice this is the amount of rain. A half an inch, 0. An inch of rain, 0.3. Just go up each line is a different model. 0. So notice there's quite a big of a range. And even some of the models actually have what would probably be a postponement of the race. But you come to the GFS model here, and I will show you. Come over here to the GFS. And it's a lot less scary. In fact, if you look at this here, it's only a handful of models that have rain. And these are the amounts in inches. If you look right here, 0.3, 0, 0.2, 0.1. So this is not really much. And most of this is Saturday night. or Saturday afternoon of next weekend, which would be good. So my point is there is a little bit of a difference. Some of the more European data today is trying to bring the through front closer to Sunday morning. Some of it on the GFS, the American model camp, is like Saturday. So long way to track, but definitely got to keep an eye on it for sure. And here are the current models, which at least as of race day are in the 60s, cool and sunny. Average high on the 500 day is 72. Average low sits at 51. So the point is, we've got plenty of time to watch. Sadly, there does look like some kind of a front next weekend, but right now the odds favorite in Vegas, to just use a sports analogy, the odds favorite in Vegas would be rain on Saturday. That would be what the more likely outcome is here right now. Not to say it can't rain on Sunday, but the odds favorite would be for rain on Saturday next weekend, at least as of right now. So, by the way, I did want to mention that the first 3 days of the month, not including now today, was the coldest start to February on record, which is actually quite interesting, but we do need some rain. Drought is going to continue to get worse, and there is the drought monitor, which is updated every Thursday, today being Thursday, and all that changed is the severe drought kind of grew a little bit, and then the level 1, the minor drought, kind of shrunk a little bit compared to last week. So if you have a comment, a question, please put it in the feed. Let me see what here. Hi, Alice. How are you? How are you? Let me pull up some comments here. Let's get this one in here. How is everybody doing here tonight, this afternoon? Let's see, and then we're going to hear from Brooks coming up in 1 second. So Alice says, have you been to the Daytona race? Yes, I have been. I've actually been. We used to grow up. It's funny how life works sometimes, isn't it? Or it's not funny. Life has a way of destiny and things. My parents and I grew up, and my family and my sister, we grew up coming to Orlando. That was our annual family vacation. We go to Disney in Cocoa Beach, and then for several years we would also go to the Daytona 500 when I was growing up. So I had the great pleasure and fortune of being able to attend when I was younger, and then I went last year with my parents. So I have been several times. It's awesome. Love it, love it, love it. But obviously the rain is a big thing. My first one was actually 2007. When Kevin Harvick famously won on a last lap pass, and I remember that vividly as a kid. 2007 Daytona 500. It was a wild race, but it's amazing how much it's changed too. Just like the Super Bowl, things have changed and evolved quite a bit over the years. So good question, Alice. All right, so let me pull up something here. Give me 1 second. I want to pull up something from Brooks. If you have a question, a comment, or a concern, please put it into the feed. We'd love to hear from you. It's going to be a great weekend, by the way. Really, 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 really nice weekend. I really think this weekend everybody's going to be like so happy how nice it feels. Compared to where we've been the last couple of weeks. I mean, this has really been a really cold stretch in Florida, but thankfully I think we're past definitely the worst of what we're going to be seeing for this week. So I do want to toss things over to my friend and colleague, meteorologist Brooks Garner. He's going to talk a little bit, again, you may have seen this already, but I think it's still relevant today. He's going to talk a little bit about the warm-up that's going to be coming in and a little bit more of a long-range outlook for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Well, I've been getting a lot of questions from folks asking if they need to keep their plants covered, if they can safely plant. Are we done with the freezes? Are we out of the woods? Well, for answers like that, we have to look at the long-range models. And a lot of the models are suggesting that we generally will see, after a little bump in the road as we head into the end of the week with some wind chills Friday morning, temperatures rebounding for the long term, probably taking us through early March. Now, the Climate Prediction Center, division of the National Weather Service, has a pretty bold forecast. So we're going to see a pretty big upper-level ridge of high pressure produce a seismic pattern shift across eastern two-thirds of the U.S. from roughly Denver all the way to Maine of warmer than normal temperatures for a period of the 11th through the 17th and likely beyond. Now, there are indications that we're going to see a storm system across the Northeast. It's going to try and drop some cooler weather in here, but it may not reach Florida. So overall, we might be done with the freezes from here on out. A reminder that sometimes in Orlando, we don't get a freeze at all during the winter months. In fact, several years have gone by in the past where we haven't seen temperatures even reach 32. They've stayed above it. So we may be done after that hard freeze we had. Kind of hard to imagine being at that point in the year, but we may be there. And when you look at the temperature forecast, it's a confirmation. So what about these stats? I did a little digging and I tried to answer your question. Are we still in danger to freeze? Well, there's always a chance. It's like the movie Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance? Well, indeed, there is. And so from this date to the end of the month, there's about a 25 to 30% chance. About a 20 to 30% chance, not bad, but it's still a chance and a significant one, but it's considered a low risk. In other words, there's roughly a 75% chance that we won't see freezing temperatures. Now, by the time we hit the Rubicon of March and everything starts blooming and it really does warm up, there's a 10% chance for the first half of March of a freeze. And that's considered a low risk or even arguably rare. Now, from March 16th to March 31st, the risk falls to below 5%, which makes it a very low risk. And then once you hit April 1st and beyond, it's zero, obviously. We start getting to that really warm season. So if you're really worried about it, hold off until March 15th to start planting the truly sensitive stuff. If you've got a cocoa palm that you want to plant or something like that in a pot that you bring in next winter just in case, maybe hold off till the 15th. But it's entirely possible also that starting now, we're pretty much out of the woods. Now that said, Friday is going to be on the cool side. It's just an example of how things can change. We're going to see lows here in the mid and upper 30s. It'll feel like it's 25 degrees, but at least it'll be above freezing in Orlando. All right, that's a wrap on the probabilities game. What's the over and under? What's your bet? All right, back to you.
I think the idea is that the chances, to reiterate what Book's saying, the chances of us having another freeze like we just did are definitely pretty low. So stay warm tonight. It's going to get quite cold again. We appreciate you watching here on Facebook, YouTube, and Fox Local. Again, most winters, this would be leading the newscast as, oh my gosh, it's cold. But compared to what we just had, one of the few winters where 37 for a low is not that bad. Yes, it's cold, but considering last weekend, we'll be fine. It's not too bad. So stay warm tomorrow morning. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you coming up here tonight. Laurel and myself on the News Edge at 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11. Have a great rest of your day.